Well, hi all, and welcome to the EcoCast by Actual Tech Media. Our topic today, harnessing the power of artificial intelligence and machine learning to accelerate analytics, business, and IT operations. And this is one of those really cool topics that just kind of lights up your brain because everyone, no matter what industry they're in, has heard of AI and ML. In one way or another, everyone has stopped to think about it, whether those thoughts are excited and interested, skeptical, maybe fearful, or just intrigued. AI and ML spark curiosity and conversation whenever and however they come up. And today will be no exception. On this EcoCast, we will be joined by some amazing humans from Progress Software, Pure Storage, and Glean. These experts are here to help us explore how innovative approaches to AI and ML can help you supercharge your organization's growth. It is going to be an exciting day, and I know that you're ready to jump in. So I'm going to keep this intro very short and sweet, but I do want to make sure that I say hi to all of you, especially to any first timers out there in the audience today. You know, Actual Tech Media created the EcoCast and the MegaCast series to help educate IT professionals like yourself on the latest innovations and trends in enterprise technologies. These webinars are designed to get you the hottest insights and up-to-date information efficiently from the comfort of your home and office, wherever you're joining us from today. MegaCast and EcoCast allow you to pose and answer questions, to connect with other experts in your field, and to help you solve your most pressing technology challenges. And there are a few things that I want to review with you all just to help you get the most out of the EcoCast today. So let's dive in. Now, if your eyes went right to that prize icon, hang tight. I'm going to come back to those in just a moment. But first, I actually want to draw your attention over to the questions tab in your webinar control panel. So if you haven't already said hi, we love to see people connecting across the world. So drop a greeting, give a wave to your friends in the Actual Tech Media community. But that questions window there is also a great place to let us know about any technical issues that might come up today. Now, hopefully none of them do, but if so, I do want to remind you that a browser refresh is going to fix just about any of the usual tech gremlins. But if they're being particularly persistent, go ahead and shoot us a message right there in that questions window, and the Actual Tech Media crew will be there to help. But most importantly, we want this to be an informative and engaging webinar for you, which means we want those technical questions. So throughout today's EcoCast, we hope that you'll be sure to ask all your burning AI and ML questions. And folks, I know there's going to be a lot of those. Now, not only are we going to have team members responding to you during the live webinar, and we'll have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of each presentation, but I want you to know that if we don't get to your question during the live session today, don't worry. The awesome humans from Progress Software, Pure Storage, and Glean will be following up with you afterwards. Now, the next thing I want to point out is that Twitter button on your audience console, because of course, good things should always be shared. So when you hear something interesting or exciting, that brain lighting up moment today, make sure to get social, share that with your friends. You can use that Twitter button right there on the console, and the hashtag for today's webinar is going to be automatically added to your post. Okay, so while we're exploring, we looked at the questions tab, we looked at the Twitter button. Now I want you to look over at the handouts tab. You're going to find some fantastic resources and takeaways from our speakers here today. There's just an awesome collection of data sheets, some reports, solution briefs, upcoming events, and more. So be sure to visit that handouts window, click around, download some of those awesome resources to read and to share after the webinar wraps today. Okay, well, I should probably introduce myself if we haven't met already. My name is Jess Steinbach with Actual Tech Media. I'm so excited to be one of your moderators for this EcoCast, along with the wonderful David Davis, who will be here in just a moment, and Scott Becker, who's going to hang out with us in a keynote, and I'm going to come back to that. It's very exciting. And the good news just keeps coming because I told you I'd come back to those prizes, and I meant it. So today, we will be giving away 3 $500 Amazon gift cards to 3 lucky winners. Now, of course, you must be in attendance during the live webinar to qualify for the prize and meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. If you're not sure what those are, no worries. Just head on over to the handouts tab I mentioned earlier, click in, scroll down, and you'll find the full T's and C's there at the bottom. Well, okay, I also mentioned this earlier, but we absolutely love hearing all of your insightful questions during these live webinars. In fact, we love it so much that we have a special additional prize for all of you inquisitive folks out there. So in today's EcoCast, we will be giving away a $50 Amazon gift card to the best question asked in each of our live sessions. So 3 sessions, 3 of these cards being given away. The teams are going to review all questions asked after the webinar wraps, which means that even if your question does not get asked live, there is still a chance to win. And we'll follow up with all the winners after the webinar. Now, I've got a few quick reminders up on the screen for you here, including the fact that all grand prize winners are required to submit an IRS form W9 to Actual Tech Media. Now, if you are a winner here today, you always have the option to donate the value of the prize to one of our selected charities. Thanks to generous prize winners on previous Actual Tech Media webinars, thousands of dollars have been donated to these wonderful organizations. So if you are a winner today and you would like to get involved, let us know. We would love to help make that happen. Well, we are very excited to have you here live with us today, and we want to keep the fun going. So be sure to connect with the Actual Tech Media team on Twitter and Facebook. We want to hear from you. You can also subscribe to Actual Tech Media on YouTube. We have some absolutely fascinating on-demand webinars there for you on really just about any topic you can imagine. So go check that out. While you're exploring, we also have some great content for you on LinkedIn. So make sure to reach out and connect with us there. And speaking of awesome content, if you haven't already checked out the Actual Tech Media Guerrilla Guide Book Club, now's the time. Go do this. The Guerrilla Guide Book Club gives you access to free enterprise IT books authored by top industry experts, so you can stay up to date on trending enterprise technology. And yes, these books are going to work on your Kindle, your mobile device, and they are completely free. So you can download all these exciting resources at guerrilla.guide. There's a link for you, again, in that handouts tab, so make sure that you check that out. Well, we are already big fans of yours, and we want to meet more of the awesome people in your community. So another great way to win a prize is to refer industry friends or coworkers to the Actual Tech Media webinar series. Now, you're going to find a link right there in that handouts tab, and you'll be automatically redirected at the end of the webinar as well. And I do want to promise you, because I know this is a concern, we're not going to spam your friends or coworkers. We send them one invite to a list of upcoming webinars. If they don't respond, they get one more little reminder from us, and that's it. And then both you and your coworker or friend could win a $300 Amazon gift card. We hold those drawings every month, so be sure to sign up, refer a friend. They get some cool content. You get to share it with them. You can all sit around and talk about it later, and you might each win $300. That's just an easy win for everybody. All right, guys. Well, I said I was going to keep it short and sweet, and I meant it. So let's get into our session. But first up, we have a very exciting keynote for you all. But before I get into the details, let me bring on Scott and David, and we'll tell you all about it. Well, hey, Scott. Hey, David. Thank you so much for coming to join me at another exciting EcoCast.
Great to be back.
All right, so last week, some of you may have attended our EcoCast on powering up databases with tools like artificial intelligence and machine learning. If you didn't attend that one, you can go find it on demand at Actual Tech Media's YouTube site, so make sure to check that out. Now, if you were there, you know that Scott, David, and I did a keynote chat about some of our absolute favorite pop culture inspired technology over the years. So we talked about Dick Tracy's two-way communicator watch, which was basically an early smartwatch. Scott talked to us about Skynet and the artificial personalities of her. And Scott, I think you basically put us all at ease and explained that even though some of us may feel this way from time to time, Skynet is not a thing. Although maybe the artificial consciousness in her was a little bit more of a 50-50, possibly kind of sort of here.
Yeah, things are getting there with the 50-50 on her. And yeah, I don't know on Skynet, today I'm feeling positive. Ask me again tomorrow. I don't know.
We'll see. And then David walked us through some cyborg chats about Commander Data. Also his pet cat Spot, who many of you remembered when Scott, David, and I all completely forgot Spot's name. So well done to the folks out there. And we talked about self-driving cars from Total Recall, which maybe don't look exactly the same, but absolutely exist.
Oh, yeah. Cyborgs are totally coming. They're just around the corner. Watch out. Watch your back.
Watch your back. Watch your back between Skynet and cyborgs. And David, thanks for showcasing. I like your show and tell with your data doll. All right, well, here's the thing. Not only did we have a ton of fun with this chat last week, we also got some great feedback and some questions from you all. So we wanted to spend a little bit more time exploring some of these questions, 2 of them really in particular. So the first one I'm going to kick to you, David, and actually it connects really well in with Skynet. So what we want to talk about is a little bit more about AI and ML, because we're hearing about those all the time. It comes up quite a bit. And sometimes the conversation seems really exciting. It's empowering all these cool new technologies. And other times it can feel a little scary, maybe a little matrixy. So, David, why the emotion here? Why is this triggering a fear response from some of us when we talk about the future of artificial intelligence and machine learning?
Yeah, I mean, I think, basically it comes back to a lot of us have seen too many movies about killer robots that take over the world. Us in, IT, we love sci-fi kind of stuff like that, but maybe it gets a little bit into our brain too much. When we think about AI in the real world, in the business, we're afraid that it's going to, take over our jobs. And I know we'll talk about that more here in a little bit, but I mean, right now, if you think about it, I don't see Skynet happening anytime in our lifetime or our children's lifetime, really. I mean, robots right now, they can barely walk. I mean, they fall over, they trip, they crash. And I know they're working on that. They're making them better every day, but it's going to take a long time for a robot to be able to do, everything we do. And I don't see them being like the Terminator here anytime soon. And then if you think about it, I mean, if you gave a computer, some AI bot, a kind of ultimate computing capacity to do anything it wants, it's really not going to do that unless you program it, right? We all know, how coding and programming works in IT. The computers, the AI is only going to do what it's told to do. And right now, I mean, Alexa can barely understand me, and certainly not someone who has an accent. I mean, so if you think about it a little bit more, when you ask a human to do something, to perform some task, that they have morals and they have an understanding of laws and how the world works and guidelines, if you will. But if you give an AI bot a task, it's also going to need that same sort of guardrails to do whatever you're asking it to do. That has to be in the programming. I mean, you're not going to tell your financial AI-enabled application to maximize profit, and then you come back, on Monday morning and it's assassinated all your competitors because it was trying to maximize profit for the company. It doesn't work like that. I mean, I know we've seen enough scary robot movies to also know that we don't want these things to happen. And, in learning about this more, I found out that Stephen Hawking said the development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race. And to that end, Stephen Hawking, other scientists, tech innovators, AI experts, they've joined together into this forum, this group, to try to prevent this specific type of thing from happening. And even Elon Musk has pledged $10 million to research and to this organization. But I mean, it does make for a good movie, right, Jess?
Yes, it does. It is much more cinematic than the program just politely researching your competitors if it, takes them all out. So I get it. I get why it's in the movies. Thank you so much for digging into that for us, David. I do think it's really important to talk about, and I know we're kind of laughing and making light in some ways, but a lot of people out there do really have strong emotional responses to AI, whether it's from the, robots taking you out or losing your job, which can feel equally life-threatening. So it is important to kind of be aware of that and understand what the realities are, especially if you're trying to have conversations with your team about AI and machine learning and convince them to potentially be adopting some of these new technologies. So that actually is going to bring us to our second question, which I'm going to kick to Scott. So we've just talked with David about, what people are worried about around artificial intelligence and hopefully why they maybe shouldn't be. But what should we actually be excited about, Scott? What are the biggest opportunities for us here with AI and ML?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about this. So inside tech, we're going to see a lot of the fruits of AI. In fact, we're seeing them already. Tech people are the ones with the expertise to build AI and ML. And what do tech people know? They know tech problems. They understand the volume of performance alerts, security alerts. So we're seeing AI applied to a lot of those types of problems, and combined with a massive processing power that's, enabled by public clouds. We're seeing a lot of movement and progress there. And they're also relatively simple, from a moral perspective. David was touching on some of the moral questions. The AI or ML is just trying to separate signal from noise. It's trying to figure out what kind of alert is going to precede a system crash or what kind of traffic indicates a ransomware attack. They're not making judgments about who's going to repay a loan someday or who might commit a crime, which are all areas that are much more complicated because it's easier to introduce unconscious bias into those kinds of calculations. So I'm really excited about AI and ML and technology tools for monitoring and managing performance and security. And then further out than that, assuming that some of the efforts that David mentioned are successful, AI has a lot of potential to be transformative in ways that could be largely positive but are difficult to predict. So if you apply AI to medicine or drugs or material design or scientific questions, there's sort of no predicting what kind of breakthroughs might be on the horizon.
Yeah, and I think that right there is maybe what for some people, that's why we have some people that react with that excitement and some people that react with a little bit of maybe trepidation, because it is a little hard to predict, and that uncertainty, depending on how that hits you, can feel really, really big and cool, or it could maybe feel a little daunting. But the exciting thing is that we're still in this exploratory phase. There's lots of cool things to learn, and everyone here in their own way gets to be a part of this journey because we are still in these early phases of development. And so by attending sessions like we're here today and learning things, you're stepping into that conversation as well, and being a part of how we move forward. So I think with that, that seems like a great place to leave it. I want to say a very special thank you to the folks out there who jumped in our last keynote with some great comments, ideas, questions that inspired this chat here today. Please do keep that feedback coming. We absolutely love hearing from you all, and it really does inspire us to have these conversations with you. So a big thank you to Scott and to David for joining me here today. David is going to be back momentarily to chat with some of our exciting presenters today. But David, what do you think? Should we jump in with our poll next?
Absolutely. Let's do it. All right, I've just brought up the first of two polls on the EcoCast today. And the question here on the screen is, if somebody asked you to describe your role in your organization at a high level, how would you describe yourself? Would you just say, hey, I work in tech? Or is it more an IT department, like, hey, I'm in IT? Or maybe you don't feel like you fit into either one of those. And if so, drop it there in the questions box, because we can improve this poll here for the future. I want to get your feedback. Let's see, Crystal said IT audit. I work in IT audit. Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. We got lots of great comments here still coming in on the keynotes. A keynote discussion. Thank you for all those. I'm responding to those as quickly as I can. I've learned a lot actually from the comments as well. All right, thank you to everyone who responded there to that poll. Let me move on just to the second poll of two here. It's our last poll before we jump into the EcoCast with our first presenter. The next poll on the screen here is, if you were going to implement harness, as the title of this EcoCast says, harness the power of AI and ML to accelerate your business, analytics, and IT operations, what's your time frame to take some action? Are you not quite sure? Do you look to take some action in the next 6 months, 12 months, or in the next 2 years? You want to be using AI and ML to accelerate your business analytics and operations. We want to get your feedback on this. Rudy said there's also the Kobayashi Maru when it comes to AI. Another Star Trek reference. I like that. Great point, Rudy. Christopher said, I'm with Global Cloud Ops. Thank you for sharing that. That's a cool title, actually. I like that. Nathan said, I work in information security administration, handling compliance, data information security. Thank you, Nathan. Peter said, I help design and develop systems that help the business be successful. That's a good description there. I like it, how it's business focused. Excellent. Well, thank you to everyone who responded there to the poll. Let's go ahead and kick off today's EcoCast with our first presenter. Welcome to Catalina, who is a product manager at Progress. Great to have you on, Catalina. Take it away.
Hi, my name is Catalina, and today we'll be talking about how we use artificial intelligence and machine learning to accelerate business, IT operations, and analytics, and the way that we have seen our customers use it, and some useful tips that will hopefully help you as well to achieve more efficiency. I will start with a slide about myself and a few words about me. I'm product manager at Progress, responsible for part of our Sitefinity DXP digital experience platform product line, which includes Sitefinity as a content management system and native chat conversational UI components, or AI chatbot platform for building AI chatbots, to be precise. I like to say about myself that I'm an engineer by heart, not only by heart, but also by education, by experience, and sometimes during the weekends, I still like to code from time to time so that I can see what's going on in the IT world, what are the new things that are happening in computer science, and get excited about them from the beginning, and then use them in my work as a product manager. And since I joined Progress 5 years ago, and since then I've been specializing in Sitefinity, and I have knowledge in digital experiences, web content management, and conversational UI. So before I begin with the topic of AI, just to make sure that if there was anyone here in the audience that was wondering whether they should pay attention to the AI lectures and if they are at the right place and this is something that they should be spending their time on, just to say yes, it is the right thing to spend your time on, and here's why. According to this McKinsey report on the state of AI, 79% of organizations report cost decreases from AI adoption. So AI helped 79% of the respondents of this survey to decrease their costs. And that's compared to just 44 in 2020. So that's a great jump, and a lot of companies adopting AI and seeing great benefits of it. And 33% of those respondents say that they report cost decreases of more than 20%. So if you're looking for ways to decrease cost for your organization, also increase revenue, but in this particular case, decrease costs, AI is the answer, and organizations do report a lot of benefits from adopting AI. And with this being said, today you hear about various applications of AI. Probably you'll hear from the other lectures about different verticals, about how AI has great applications, let's say in healthcare, in finance, in travel, in agriculture, or everywhere. But I'll be focusing on what we are most experienced in, where my experience is, digital experiences. So Sitefinity as a digital experience platform provides a lot of benefits to customers for content creation, but not only content creation, but media management, analysis, search, marketing, and in general providing the optimal experiences to organizations, to their customers and to their users. So today I'll be talking about how AI solves particular challenges for our customers within the digital experience space. And I have structured the presentation in a particular way. So I will start with a challenge, and then I will dig in a little bit deeper. So I will be giving you examples of particular questions that our customers are asking us, and those questions, how AI helps solve those challenges and answer those questions, and particular examples of how in Sitefinity DX we are actually employing AI to solve the challenges and incorporate AI in our product portfolio. So the first challenge is actually boosting business users' productivity. And when talking about business users, I'm talking about content creators, marketing users, and everyone that is creating content and driving digital experiences, creating campaigns as well. As I said, I'll be digging with particular questions that we are getting asked. For example, how do I spend more time on creation and less on housekeeping? This is a problem that customers from time to time come to us and say, our content creators want to spend less time on housekeeping, less time on tagging items, organizing stuff throughout the website, making stuff searchable and looking for the metadata. They want to spend more time on the actual creation, on thinking, on writing. Another question that we get asked is, what help can I get if I'm stuck and out of ideas? Sometimes you want to create content, but you're not sure where to start from, what content to focus on, what problem even to focus on, what your audience wants to hear. So that's something that also content creators are trying to solve. How do I keep the content accessible and organized throughout the website? Again, without putting manual effort there, because remember, we want to keep our effort on the thing that is bringing most value, the actual creation piece and the creation of the piece and the content. So the answer for this, how AI can help in this particular challenge, is AI provides there are great services for content creation that are powered by artificial intelligence. They are both text and work with text and media, and I'll give you a few examples. One of them is tagging. Using automatic tagging is becoming more and more in demand for our customers because it works according to the text and media. It extracts entities, it can extract PII. So instead of wasting time to go manually at different tags and classifications, people can readily, they can go ahead, for example, write their blog post, and they can get suggestions for the tags that they can use. And that's useful not just because they're getting the tags, but the tags are later used in search. They're used for navigation and for different sorts of pulling content together in different pieces of the different places of the website. Summarization. AI can now give you summary of the text that you have generated. So if you have generated a blog post that is pretty lengthy, with AI you can basically get a pretty good analysis and summary of the text, so that you can use it for summary in different channels if you want to. Not only that, but text generation works pretty well nowadays too. So if you only provide a couple of words, sentences, it can generate the whole marketing copy for you that you can then review and use for your purposes. Suggestions. Also, AI can help you get suggestions for content creation based on the information that you have provided and the audience profile for your digital channels. And as I said, I'll be giving examples on how we use that in our product portfolio. For example, as a main tool for content creators, Sitefinity provides extension points to plug in the best of breed AI services for content creation. As it is in this example, you see that a content creator has created an article, and on the right-hand side, you can see the analysis and the suggested tags coming from AI services that the content editor can decide to use or discard if they want to have anything else. Next, we'll talk about delivering relevant content. And in this challenge, the questions that we get asked the most and the most important and significant questions for the customers are very often, how do I drive more conversion? So I have conversions on, let's say, my website, on my digital channels, and I want customers to convert, to go there, to book demos, to schedule appointments, to book for services or consultations that we have on the website. So how do I drive more conversions? At the same time, to get there, people want to know what content would engage my audience the most. So how do I know my audience and what engages them? How do I deliver high impact personalized experiences for each visitors? We know that each visitor has their own path, their own drivers, and their own ways to browse our website. So how do we recognize the patterns, and how do we have high impact personalization for each visitor? And for this purpose, we can employ AI services for analytics and personalization. with some particular examples being journey analytics, like receiving reports about audience behavior, so what is actually going on the website, but also customer journey, so that we can see individual journeys, and also get notified about anomalies. So if any conversions are behaving better than expected, worse than expected, and having in mind the context and how usually the conversions and the touch points are behaving, what is happening, for example, this month or this week, that is actually an anomaly and is not expected to happen. You can also use AI services for automatic audience discovery as well. Attribution models, you can utilize the AI models to understand what drives more conversions. So to know what has more impact on your website, so where you should be putting more effort and what is more meaningful in the journey of your customers. And also one-to-one personalization, which is exactly delivering the unique digital experiences for each visitor and recommending the best next action that is for this particular user that would drive them through the journey that you want to. And here on the screenshot, you see one of our products, part of the Sitefinity DX offering. So that's Sitefinity Insight, an important component of our DXP offering, which brings journey analytics, anomaly detection, attribution analytics, personalization reports, and other AI-powered capabilities natively. Here you see actually the attribution model, which was part of the previous slide, and how the AI-driven attribution model shows which content items from this particular website are attributing to the conversions, how they are, what value they are bringing, how much value they're bringing, and which are behaving better than others. So they might need more focus on them. The next challenge is helping users find relevant information. And that's becoming a bigger and bigger challenge with the more information there is in general on the digital channels of every organization. So organizations are now wondering, how do we make sure that the content is searchable? How do I help my customers find information easily on my website? And can I anticipate the different terms and phrases my audience uses? Because sometimes the information is there, but it's just hard for visitors to navigate it. Visitors open the website and they're looking for something in particular, but it might be that they're using the different terms than the ones that content creators have used. It might be that the content is not annotated well, but at the end, the users might be frustrated and leave the website because they cannot find information. And organizations recognize this more and more, and they're investing a lot in AI services for search engines. One very key factor here being semantic search, and more often we are hearing from our customers the need to have semantic search, or actually search based on intent and not just keywords. And that's exactly the way that our customers describe it as well. We don't want to have keyword matching. We want a smart search that actually understands the needs of our users. And that's how AI can help actually to achieve that. Also, media search. Media are now a huge part of our digital lives. You see that there are huge amount of videos, of webinars, of image resources, and document resources that are out there that also need to be searchable, because there is a lot of useful information there. So any sort of visuals and media need to be searchable for a richer experience and more relevant results. And also synonyms that are also sometimes related to the context of the website. So depending on, for example, the vertical of the website, but using the available context to provide more relevant results with synonyms is actually also an important part of having the optimal search experience and guiding users to find relevant content. What you see here is a screenshot that's actually from Microsoft Azure, and it's here because Sitefinity has an out-of-the-box integration with Azure Cognitive Search, which provides AI-powered search experiences and brings and solves all those challenges that you saw on the last slides. And last but not least, lowering the cost of support, and the cost of support being not just technical support, but any sort of customer service that you have on the website, so answering the questions of your customers that come through the phone, through email, or any other channel. The questions that we get asked here is there something that can help me deflect support cases, or how do I automate repetitive tasks that takes time from our customers and service teams? So is there anything to automate it so our human teams can do something else instead? And can I provide personalized 24/7 service to customers without significantly increasing the cost? You know that having 24/7 service increases the cost, but as we saw in the beginning of the presentation, of course, we're striving to optimize cost. So is there anything that we can do to help that? And AI can also help significantly here, a lot through AI chatbots. AI chatbots can help with various stuff and basically guided task or automating repetitive tasks. So you can utilize the easy to use, very intuitive conversational UI. It also has natural language processing capabilities so that whenever customers are opening a chat, they can continue chatting in the same manner as they are chatting to their friends. They don't need to confront to certain phrases or certain guidelines or have a format that they follow, so that they can use their language, their what they're used to complete the repetitive task, something that would usually you would ask them to call on the phone, like get a reservation, schedule an appointment, book a demo, something that can be easily done through conversational UI. So they're doing it faster and there is no cost for you here because no one is calling the support team, for example. Same for answering frequently asked questions. With training on AI chatbots, you can get customers can get answers to frequently asked questions, and also even use AI search as a fallback. So whenever the chatbot is not trained on a particular question, it can fall back to AI search as an option to find the answer that the customer is looking for before, for example, handing it off to a live agent again. And improving training, that's a crucial part. You as an administrator will be able to assess the understanding of the bot based on real data, which is actually the real phrases and the real language that your users have used when chatting with the chatbot. You'll be able to assess if the bot understood correctly, and based on your response and your guidance on whether that's accurate or not, the machine learning algorithms will be tweaking and will be making the bot better over time. So customers will be getting better answers, and the bot will in general be smarter over time. And what you see here is native chat, which is, as I mentioned, part of our also DX portfolio again, which is a platform for building AI chatbots. With native chat, you can build a chatbot like this one. For example, this one helps a customer get an appointment with a doctor in a clinic. You can see that it understands the natural language, so it knows when you say I need to get an appointment tomorrow, next Tuesday, on Christmas, it knows what you mean. It can be personalized. It's there 24/7. So as you see, it can work with your system, so it knows whether you've had an appointment with a doctor before, for example, and so it can suggest the same doctor. So it can be tweaked and personalized to get the best experience easily without even needing to call on the phone. And these are a few of the AI applications that we've been exploring on our end and adding to our product portfolio. I hope it has been useful, and I'm ready to take some questions now.
Catalina, that was awesome. What a cool presentation. I have to say, whenever we talk about this kind of stuff, my brain just lights up with all the possibilities and things that are already in our world and things that are coming soon. It's really exciting.
Yeah, good to hear. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for kicking off our EcoCast with such a great presentation. We've got a lot of questions coming in. Our audience is clearly awake and ready. Are you ready to jump into some audience questions?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
All right, perfect. So this one's interesting. Somebody kind of looking to take some action. So their question is, we're looking to implement an AI chatbot. What is the most efficient way to plan for that implementation?
Okay, that's a great question. So from our experience, the best way to go forward is first start with your goals. So what are you actually trying to accomplish there? Is it what are the business goals behind the decision to get an AI chatbot? For example, it might be to lower the cost of support, which is the example that we had in the presentation. And if so, it's good to start tracking. Of course, you've been tracking probably before, but it's good to start tracking and see what the action plan would be so that you achieve this goal. And from then on, you can start, for example, if you're building an FAQ chatbot, you can start with the most frequently asked questions, train the chatbot on them. But it's very important, and that's something that we found out with our customers while they've been implementing chatbots. It's very important to know that it's an ongoing process and an ongoing improvement and machine learning over time that will be happening. So the chatbot wouldn't be a know-it-all machine that can answer any question from the first day on. So it's good to have a realistic expectation that the bot will be learning over time and you will be helping the bot learn. So get a good set, first set up your goal, then get a good set of starting questions that you train your chatbot on, or guided tasks that you train your chatbot on, and then set realistic expectations, for example, in your audience, to whoever is chatting with the chatbot. Let them know that there is a chatbot. Let them know what the chatbot can help them with. For example, if the chatbot can help with appointments, let people know that that's a chatbot that helps with frequently asked questions and appointments. And then start tracking the progress over time. So for example, in native chat, there is a dashboard, a report, a user assessment report, where you can take a look at what has been happening, what language the users have used, and based on the real language and the real things people are looking for, you will then start adding more, removing stuff that is not needed, and the bot will be learning over time so that you will see continuous improvement there. So that's my general guidance.
Those are great guidelines. That's such a good answer. I love actually starting with, it sounds so simple, but to start with, what are you actually trying to accomplish, especially because with so many of these things, we do get so excited about it, that it feels like the sky's the limit with these types of automations. And if you don't know what you actually need and want at that finish line, you can start to get pulled, into all kinds of different directions. And I really appreciate that. And the expectation setting, I think, is also really important. We learn that over and over again, that people tend to be fine, even with some inconvenience, as long as you expectation set. And of course, the inconvenience gets smaller and smaller the more the bot learns. So those are good reminders.
Of course, yeah.
Well, I think we've got time for one more. So let's take another question here. How is the AI attribution model better than the ones that have been used previously?
Yeah, that's also a good question. So that's one of the models that we're using, for attribution models that we're using in our Safety Insight platform. Actually, in the platform, you can see all of the different models at the same time, including the AI model, so that you can actually compare the AI model with the ones that have been used before. So previously, and there are different models that are in use, like a linear first touch, last touch model, that basically have set weights that you, depending on the model, you set what the weights are on a particular touch point on the conversion itself. So the first touch model, for example, calculates journey that have started with a given touch point, and that's the important part. So the first touch is the starting touch point that then leads to conversion, and the last touch model is the last touch point that leads to a conversion. So if you pick one of those attribution models, you are basically deciding where the weight is and what is the more important of a touch point, whether it happened in the beginning of the journey or just before the conversion. So you need to decide first. But the AI-driven model actually uses probabilistic approach and uses AI to calculate those weights for you, and depending on the data, it looks at the journey and can decide where actually which touch points have a bigger weight and are more impactful towards the conversion. So we are using AI for the analytical part there, for deciding which is the more important portion for the more important touch points and what the weight is, no matter where in the journey, attributing to a given conversion.
That's awesome.
But as I said, you can compare all
Yeah.
of them to see how they work and see for yourself.
Yeah, and actually, that's a great point, because so the last thing I wanted to ask you before before we go here is, if somebody is really excited about everything that they heard from you today, and they want to jump in and get started with Progress and explore their own AI chatbots, what do they do? What's their first step? How do they start testing these out?
Yeah, sure. You can go ahead on the website, take a look at the solutions we provide for probably your use case, and see what we have there. We have a free demo. We have a demo where you can experience Affinity, you can experience Insight, Native Chat, all of the components that you heard about today, or you can directly contact sales and get a demo yourself from our sales team.
That's awesome. Okay, well, Catalina, this has just been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being here with us today, and thanks for kicking off our EcoCast in style.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
All right, David, back on over to you.
Wow, that was really cool. Very fascinating what you all are doing there at Progress. Thank you so much, Catalina, for the great presentation. And thank you, Jess, there for helping out with the Q&A. I just brought up the poll question that we have after each of our presentations on our EcoCast and MegaCast events. The poll says, what additional information would you like about the Progress software solution? And we've been getting lots of great questions coming in. I know Catalina answered as many as she could, but we'll be routing the rest of them that we didn't have time for in our live Q&A over to the Progress team to get back to you on. And I know Catalina's answering as many as she can. So thank you for all the excellent questions. We do have our best question prize, as Jess talked about at the start of the event, a $50 Amazon gift card, one for each of the sessions on the event today. So, you know, if you have a question in mind, keep it coming. I will leave the poll up here and give you a chance to check out the Progress software handout. It's there in the Handouts tab. It is the total economic impact of Progress Sitefinity Digital Experience Program. Goes into all the financial details on how Progress can help companies save money and provide business benefits with their solution. So make sure that you check that out. And I'll announce the winner of our first Amazon $500 gift card. This is going out to Melissa Baxter from the great state of South Carolina. Congratulations, Melissa Baxter of South Carolina. We've still got 2 more Amazon $500 gift cards to give out on the event today, and 2 more awesome presentations. All right, if you haven't answered the poll, now is the time to do it, because we're moving on to our next presentation on the EcoCast today. All right, and with that, it's now my pleasure to introduce you to our next presenter. Welcome to Justin Emerson, Principal Technology Evangelist at Pure Storage. Justin, it's great to have you on. Take it away.
Hi, my name is Justin Emerson. I'm a Principal Technology Evangelist with Pure Storage. Today, we're going to talk about considerations when scaling AI from pilot to production. There are often lots of considerations, especially when you start from various different places with your AI and machine learning workloads. But one thing to think about is how things change as your project goes from maybe a small test or demonstration to something that could be critical to your business. So AI is growing extremely quickly. It's a top level of investment for enterprises globally. And in the next 5 years, the global AI market is forecasted to reach $341 billion. That's a lot. And 88% of enterprises are focusing on AI as a very large area of investment. And this is not unique to any particular vertical. It's across all verticals. And while each individual vertical may have their own special particular type of workload or use case where things are, where AI is going, those are all critical to the growth and differentiation of each of these different verticals. So for example, whether it's, digitizing pathology slides to help detect cancer, or saving millions of dollars in site inspections using drones, or increasing the conversation rate of marketing campaigns from 5% to 20%. Each of these different verticals is going to focus on different areas, but AI is powering the change in all of these different verticals. And when most people think about AI, what they're thinking about is this cool kind of stuff. They're thinking about, oh, look at all the cool self-driving cars. They're thinking about the cool new hardware, the slick stuff that's designed specifically to do these machine learning workloads. They're thinking about all these new frameworks that allow you to build these AI models. And they're thinking about how are these models going to evolve over time. And oftentimes when people are starting out at the very beginning, they think, let's get started in the cloud. And that's not a bad idea, right? The cloud gives you a very low cost of entry. It lets you start up a project very quickly. Some clouds offer full AI as a service tools. And it can be very easy to access cloud data sets with other compute in the cloud. So jumpstarting productivity with AI is very easy in the cloud to begin with. But what's important to think about is that there is so much more to AI than just training the model. In this paper from a bunch of folks at Google, they said only a small fraction of real-world machine learning systems is the actual machine learning code. And really, a lot of the stuff around it is what is vast and complex. So what this means is that if all you're thinking about is the actual ML code, you're sort of missing the forest for the trees, because the surrounding infrastructure, all of the things that build this pipeline that make your machine learning code work, is really the area where people need to be investing time and expertise. And this is what we call ML ops. So in reality, the development of the model pales in comparison to the amount of time it takes to actually put the model into production. So let's say you're a data scientist that built this really amazing model, and now you're testing it out with inference, and it's working great. And you save your results, you maybe write up a paper or an email about it, and you're done. But when you want to scale it into production, you're going to have to take lots of other concerns and workloads. And ideally, you've planned for all these from the beginning. Most of what enterprise AI and MLOps is about is how do we support these important production activities? How do we avoid the pitfalls that can derail production? How do we maintain business value as patterns shift? So put all together, this is termed MLOps. This is another place where one of the big things you can do is plan for the infrastructure, the compute, the storage, the software, et cetera, that you're going to need to scale up. Because ideally, when you're building this cool new model, what you want is that model to be wildly successful. And if it is wildly successful, you want to think about, well, what is that going to look like in the real world? So how do we prepare for that potential eventuality? Well, the first is that if this model is successful, not only are you going to have to probably continue to do enhancements of training over time, as well as inference to actually, make the model useful. And that's going to require probably high performance infrastructure, whether that's in the cloud or on premises. It's going to require infrastructure. And it's important to think about portability when you're doing that as well. If what you're doing is you're building a complex model with a bunch of scaffolding around it to build inference servers and build that into a data pipeline and have feedback loops and all that kind of good stuff. If you build that in a way that is extremely tied to a particular infrastructure, maybe using very specific or custom tools, then that's going to make it difficult to change in the future. It's going to make it difficult, say, for example, to move to a hybrid environment or to move from private to public or public to private clouds. And one also needs to think about what the security, control, governance, and data ownership requirements are, because depending on what your model is doing, depending on what kind of data it's touching, may impact where you can run it. Not just from is it under my control or is it under someone else's control, but also, for example, what jurisdiction it might be in, depending on laws. And you also want to think about how do I build this so that it's reliable? How do I build it so that I can swap things out while it's still running? It's always a challenge when you have things in production to be able to make updates to it without breaking everything downstream. And then how do I build data services behind that helps do things like make sure that it's resilient, make sure that if there's something that happens to it, it doesn't go down, make sure that it's backed up if I get attacked with ransomware. And so all of this is to say that these are not problems that you probably haven't thought of, or that people haven't thought of, because they're things that we think about when it comes to software development. Back a long time ago, writing software was, maybe a few different people editing, source code files. And then as software projects got bigger and more complicated, and there were more people working on them, we started building systems that help us design software. And this is what is now sort of known as DevOps. The idea that software development isn't just about writing the code, but it's also about automating tests. It's also about building system tests that allow engineers to do quality assurance on code that's written. It's about building up particular timelines for releases to get pushed out the door. It's about version control. All of this stuff, there's an entire set of best practices around software production. And it's important to think of building AI models as the same way. AI, machine learning models are just a different kind of software. And so the reason we use the term MLOps is it's very different to software development in DevOps. And so that means that you need to be thinking about those same kinds of DevOps practices when it comes to building your machine learning efforts. So the challenge here is that oftentimes the folks working with the data, such as data scientists, are not trained software engineers. This may be a new area for them in terms of expertise. And oftentimes they may be working in a silo from the people that are managing the infrastructure that's underneath them. And the other challenge is that the tool chains and the capabilities and the state of the art is moving so fast when it comes to machine learning that this is an area that's constantly in flux, which means that as a practice, enterprise AI is still pretty young and immature. So what are we trying to achieve here? Well, if you are the person building the model, what you want to do is you want to build great models. And if you're a person in IT and DevOps, what you want to do is build an infrastructure that facilitates the running of these models in production in a way that is scalable, dependable, and is manageable. And this is where MLOps comes in, the idea that how do we build a set of best practices around how to industrialize this AI development pipeline so that we can get these models into production, we can keep them online, and we can scale them from, say, an experiment into a full-on mission-critical system. And so in order to simplify AI infrastructure at any scale, you need a strategy. And so the important thing to think about is if you're in IT, you probably already have lines of business that are doing AI. And if you are in AI and machine learning development, you should probably be talking to your IT team about it. Because people that go off and do things on their own, either in the public cloud, but without oversight or without integration into other parts of the business, which is what we call shadow AI, those may be very easy to get started with, but they often break when you need to scale up. If you build something in a vacuum and then suddenly introduce it back into an atmosphere, weird things can happen. And so the people in AI leadership need to partner with IT leadership, whether that is in service of the public cloud, whether that's in service of private infrastructure or both. It really involves a partnership, just like with software development and software infrastructure. And so Pure Storage and NVIDIA have built a solution for this, an IT-proven blueprint for forward-leaning AI-powered enterprises, and that is what we call AIRI S. So AIRI S helps you modernize your AI infrastructure. It helps build a high-performance, easy-to-use building block for AI training infrastructure and inference. It eliminates the complexities associated with traditional AI infrastructure because it is pre-designed to include not only all of the NVIDIA software stack, as well as pure Flashblade S, which is a high-performance storage platform that offers both file and object storage. And all of these scale. So you can scale up your storage and you can scale up your compute, your GPU compute or your CPU compute independently in order to build out as your AI needs grow as a business. I mentioned Flashblade S. Flashblade S is our next generation Flashblade platform, which is our scale out unstructured data platform. It is optimally suited for AI workloads. AI workloads are extremely demanding, especially on the training side. And our system is not only extremely performant, it's extremely power efficient. And it works very well with lots and lots of simultaneous data streams and workers, which scale out AI training workloads are definitely in that category. And so as you grow from a small experiment, say, into a production infrastructure, it's important, and this is why we brought up that portability aspect, to analyze where it makes sense to run my model. It may make sense as your business grows or as your model becomes more important that you really need to compare the costs of running it in the cloud versus on-premises infrastructure. There is usually, for most organizations, a cutover point where it becomes more cost-effective to do it yourself than it is to rent it. It may make sense to, rent a truck if you only need a truck to carry some drywall once every few months. But if you're hauling it every day, it usually makes sense to own your own. And that's not to say that that's the only place. There are lots of customers that may, for example, do training with on-prem infrastructure and then inference in the cloud. So there's lots of different ways to approach that problem. But it's important to look at it not only in terms of upfront cost, but also in total cost of ownership. Because even if you're thinking, oh, well, I'm just going to take the cost of the public cloud and multiply it by 3 years, there's lots of other costs that go into that. And so it's important to look at that holistically, including things like support, operational costs, both for on-premises and for in the public cloud. And it's also important to think about, well, what am I using in the cloud? What does an equivalent infrastructure work with? Depending on the cloud that you're using, you may have access to different kinds of accelerators and different workloads, some of which may be bespoke to that particular cloud. And lastly, lots and lots of enterprises are going through the same problem. So this isn't something that you have to do alone. There are lots of partners, vendors, and peers that you can go to ask questions about this, of which Pure Storage is certainly one. So we've done lots of total cost of ownership analysis on public cloud versus pure storage area on premises. And in fact, even Pure Storage, right? We as a company leverage public clouds, but we also leverage our own infrastructure. We do a lot of stuff that's pure on pure, where we are customer zero, as some people would call it, and that includes with our AI machine learning workloads, of which there are many, and we do lots of really interesting things with them. But that's probably outside the scope of this talk. And so if you'd like to know more about this, you can actually get access to this TCO calculator that helps you determine what would the savings be, for example, an on-premises infrastructure once you hit that crossover point where it starts to make more sense to do things on-prem versus in the public cloud. And there are a lot of knock-on effects from that too, because if you do bring it to something like your data to something like Flashblade, it's important to know that Flashblade provides a tremendous set of capabilities, whether that's on the file protocol side, the object side, or interesting other services, things like snapshots, things like security with role-based access control, and safe mode, which protects you from ransomware attacks. So if you have your extremely critical machine learning data and your data sets and your training models and your checkpoints, and you don't want anything bad to happen to those, that's where Flashblade can help. And we have lots of customers that leverage FlashBlade in a hybrid scenario where they may have FlashBlade either on premises or in a colo, and they're using the data that lives on that FlashBlade both in their own data center as well as in the public cloud. Because again, it's not that one is better or worse than the other. It's that they're good for different things, and certain things make sense in certain places. And so having the flexibility to use that in both places at once is extraordinarily powerful. And let me talk a little bit about some of the customers that have seen success when using AIRI. So NavInfo is a real-time AI driving company. So they provide customers in the automotive industry with advanced tailor-made solutions, and they're leveraging AIRI in order to accelerate their ability to develop and run complex AI models. And they have shown that they have a much lower TCO than the previous solution that they were using. There's also Olympus. Olympus, who is the medical device manufacturer, they're leveraging AIRI for their development platform for all of their AI workloads. They're trying to build self-service environments for their AI researchers so that they can get to market faster with new AI solutions, both in the area of high tech and healthcare. And then GIST, which is helping to train the next generation of AI and machine learning data scientists. They're leveraging AIRI to enhance their infrastructure that allows students to conduct research more effectively and more reliably. And of course, as folks probably saw back in January, there was a joint announcement with Meta regarding their AI research supercluster, which is leveraging Pure Storage as well. And so, if you want to think about what is the largest scale that you can get with AI training, that is certainly a relevant example there. So hopefully, what you've taken away from here is that it's important from the get-go to think about, how is my application, how is my model going to not just be born, but how is it going to grow up? How do I make sure that it has a future where it has all of the opportunity it can have to succeed? And that really is what AIRI is about. When you scale that model from experiments all the way into production, there are a lot of pitfalls along the way that you can hit. And so Pure Storage and AIRI is here to help make that transition and to make that that journey as easy and as low risk as possible. So if you'd like to learn more, you can visit our website here, which is purestorage.com/products/AI infrastructure/AIRI-S. I believe there's also a URL, which is just purestorage.com/AIRI if you would like to do it quickly, or you can use the QR code on your screen. My name's been Justin Emerson. I really appreciate your time today. Pure Storage is here to uncomplicate data storage forever, and hopefully we can do that for you as well.
All right, great presentation. Thank you so much, Justin. I learned a lot about Pure Storage and AIRI. It sounds like this could help so many companies out there. Pure Storage has so many just excellent expert presenters. Every time they're on, I learn a lot. So thank you so much. I've just brought up the poll question for everyone out there on the screen that says, what additional information would you like about the Pure Storage solution? And Justin is taking questions electronically. The Pure Storage team is here to answer your questions, and we've already received quite a few, so thank you so much for those during the presentation. If you have a question for Justin and Pure Storage about the AIRI solution, now's the time to get it in. We do want your questions. We also have the best question prize. Of course, don't forget about that as well. I do want to remind everyone as well, while you're answering the poll, about the handouts tab. It's there that you'll find a link to the Pure Storage AIRI's AI infrastructure for modern innovators solution. You can click to email me the PDF. There's a really nicely done solution brief there right at the top of the page with additional information. So make sure that you check that out before you go. All right, thank you to everyone who responded to the poll. If you haven't responded yet, we'll wait a minute longer here, let you respond. And while you're doing that, I'll announce our next Amazon $500 gift card winner. This one's going to Bruce Fong from California. Congratulations. Bruce Fong from California. We've still got a third gift card to give out at the end of today's event after our next presentation. Make sure you stay tuned for that. All right, and with that, let's go ahead and move on now to our next presentation on the event today. We're excited to welcome a first-time presenter, Glean, on the event today, along with Mr. Eddie Chu, who is the founding engineer at Glean. Eddie, it's great to have you on.
Thanks so much. Happy to be here.
Excellent. Well, we're happy to have you. Take it away.
All right. All right, everyone. So as mentioned, my name's Eddie. I'm really excited to be here today to talk to you all about at Glean how we're using AI for language understanding to help accelerate work. So let me just set the stage a little bit right now for the state of work. Today, we have all these awesome productivity tools in our workday around us, right? We have all these SaaS products, and it seems like every year there's a new one that really is fun to use, is great to use, but what that kind of results in is a lot of fragmentation, right? So that work that's done results in information and knowledge that gets fragmented across all these different SaaS apps. And so knowledge workers end up kind of approaching a new project they have to do or a new deliverable they have to complete kind of from scratch because that information is siloed or locked away somewhere else. They might try to consult, some sort of canonical Wikipedia or some sort of wiki or knowledge repo, but these tend to fall stale. And sometimes, there's companies who kind of have entire teams of folks whose job it is to purely just to maintain those sources of information, right? So that staleness is a real issue. And so at the end of the day, people end up really just asking each other, right? You know that your coworker or your manager is going to be the person who has the actual source of information, the source of truth that you need. And that results in a lot of interrupts, right? So both from the person who's asking, who might be a new employee, as well as the person who's been at the company a while, who ends up spending a lot of their time just answering these questions, right? And that might result in a lot of frustration too. So all of these problems and this organizational drag has a real impact. And I've thrown a couple numbers here from various studies, but McKinsey has found that nearly 10 hours a week, knowledge workers are spending nearly 10 hours a week looking for information, and 6.5 hours kind of working on things that are duplicated or redundant, right? And all those awesome, productivity apps, those SaaS apps that people are adding result in a lot of context switching, right? So they're going back and forth between all these different places up to 30 times a day. So now that I've kind of set the stage for the problem, let's jump to kind of the technology that we think can be useful here, right? And so it's kind of well understood that we're currently in this fourth major technological revolution, one that kind of started with the PC, the personal computer, leading into connectivity enabled by the internet, and then kind of recently around mobile and social, a lot of different applications arising there. And then finally, kind of in today's day and age, thinking about how we can leverage AI and ML technology to enable some sort of breakthrough applications, right? And something that's kind of become a little bit more clear in the past few years, while there are awesome applications of this technology across things like computer vision, you've heard of self-driving cars, really one of the most immediately impactful areas is that of understanding language, right? So our team at Glean, we come from a research background. And a lot of our former coworkers across companies like Google and OpenAI have, in the past few years, made some really, really cool breakthroughs. You may have heard of these models, BERT, GPT-3, and basically those models, what they've done is enabled these kind of quantum leaps in these natural language processing tasks. So some examples might be question answering or summarization. So for example, in question answering, you might see, we have some data set, some evaluation set, and the previous model was able to answer 50% of the questions well, and now we're on to 80% with these new models, right? So I've kind of added a a picture of the kind of things that you can do with this interface, right? So GPT-3 lets you simply actually give the model a prompt and say, hey, I want you to summarize this for a second grader, right? And here's a pretty information dense passage, right? And the model is able to take both the prompt and that text and produce something that's a meaningful interpretation of that prompt, right? You can see that sample response ends up being something that is actually more appropriate for a second grader, right? And just throwing a couple more of those examples here that might be more immediately connectable to some enterprise applications. On the keyword side, you can see we've told the model to simply extract keywords from the following text. Again, very, very dense text. And you're kind of seeing that the model can kind of spit out these salient terms that help kind of figure out, okay, what are the actual important parts of this long piece of text, right? Similarly, you can even have something more specific around contact information for a given email, knowing how to parse through that and pick out the right parts given what it's prompted to do. So this is some really, really cool technology that's emerged recently. And what we want to do is figure out, okay, well, what does that mean for the workplace, right? And at Glean, what we've done is we've leveraged the exact same technology to do what we call unifying structured knowledge, right? That comes in from the enterprise with knowledge in its unstructured form, which is language, effectively, right? So by training these large language models across the company's a given company's data, you're able to build a product that kind of compresses that new dialect, that's very specific to that company into a model and leverage it in meaningful ways. The primary one that I like to talk about today is search, right? So this all comes again from us believing that language and knowledge are intricately linked, and if you can get a language model to kind of cover that information that's only available in a given company, you can unlock that knowledge, right? So what does this mean materially, right? We've built this search that searches across all of the data at a given company, and I'll show you guys a demo shortly. But what that allows people to do is it ends up with employees who are not experiencing those problems as much, right? Those fragmentation problems I highlighted in the beginning. They end up spending time on the things that they actually care about, doing real deep work rather than toiling away trying to find a document that someone sent them or ask what they feel like is a dumb question. And so, both for new employees who haven't yet gotten the chance to fully ramp up and, they might be embarrassed to ask a question, they do have something to turn to and unlock all of this information that's around them, right? And then also this technology kind of leverages all of the expertise coming from those employees who've been there for a while, right? The language that they've shared, and they're able to work within it much more easily as well. So after all that with the technology and the problem, I would love to jump into a demo here. So I'll show you all exactly what I mean by when I'm talking through Glean here. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen now. And what we have here is when we connect Glean at a given deployment, we for a given customer, what happens right off the bat after you've connected your Google Drive or your Confluence or your Jira or your Slack or everywhere that your employees are doing work in, we start crawling all of that data and start training our models on top of it right away. So from day one, you're kind of starting to build that base of knowledge, that base of language that enables us to bring search and really awesome intelligence to this product experience. So it comes in the form of a couple things. We have, a web app, but also here I have the Chrome extension installed. So when I open a new tab, you can see that I simply am greeted with the Glean experience here. And from the get-go, you can see that we have some intelligence built right in, right? We have the ability to see documents or materials that I've been working on, recently, or that I'm being suggested because of other things that are happening across the company. Maybe other people are working on them. things that might be trending in my team or in my department that I might have missed, that I don't want to miss, as well as the ability for, admins to kind of push information like announcements to the employees, easy productivity wins like throwing in calendar integration, right? But now I want to kind of get to search, right, and show you the power of that language understanding I talked about, right? So let's say it's my first day, or actually let's say it's my second day, and I keep on hearing everyone at Glean say the word SERP, and it's now my second day, so I'm a little bit too scared to ask what is that, and so I go here and I have Glean luckily, and I can type in SERP, right? And I type in SERP, and right off the bat I see, okay, I'm greeted with a pretty familiar search experience. This seems reasonable to me, but it actually turns out that in my mind, I've been thinking about this term spelled incorrectly, right? It's actually S-E-R-P, right? And so I can go through that and say, okay, what does that mean? Now I know that I didn't spell it wrong. Like, thankfully, I didn't message someone with the incorrect spelling or something. Now I see how it's actually spelled. I see that it's an acronym. It's an acronym that's specific to Glean, right? To the way Glean has understood our company, because this is a very language specific thing. So those models are learning the Glean specific language, right? And so aside from my core intent, which is to just understand, well, what does this even mean? We can see a bunch of relevant results from across all these different data sources, right? We can see across Google Drive, what are people doing while they're working on SERP? Are they and at what time were they working on these things? Who are the people that are working on them, right? And so really, really across the entire company, I can get a view of what's going on with SERP at the time, right? So what I want to do now is kind of show you another piece here, which if we go to, let's say I'm joining the intelligence team, right? And I want to kind of just jump right in to see what I should be doing for onboarding next, right? And I've been sent this document. I've already viewed it. And so, Glean is giving me an easy way to access it. And so now I'm looking through this document. It's on my day 2, so I've already kind of tried out a couple things, but I also heard about the sidebar. So because Glean is deployed through a Chrome extension, we can just open up a sidebar here, and I see not only do I have the ability to search for other things I need, but I also get a bunch of intelligent recommendations about from the context of the document I'm on, right? So there might be other things that I'm missing that I'm not aware of, right? And I don't even know what to search for to look for them. But right here, I can see, oh, there's actually a broader team onboarding as well that maybe I should make sure I go through. I can see a feedback document for someone who went through onboarding kind of recently and thoughts that she had around what could be improved, right? Maybe I want to add to those, right? So this kind of intelligence is only enabled through building that language, that understanding of specifically how Glean talks, how Glean employees talk to each other, and driving it into this product, right? So I'll give a couple more demos here of some of this intelligence. So let's say, okay, it's the end of my first week. I've been told that I'm supposed to work on the shortcuts feature, right? And I go to the shortcuts feature. I want to find out more about it. And Glean, through training that language model, has understood that the word, go links is actually interchangeable with shortcuts internally, right? We actually use them the same way. And if Glean had not figured that out, I would be missing a ton of relevant results here, right? And that's one of the most frustrating things is when you feel like the search isn't working. So, and they're not understanding you, right? But in this case, Glean actually might understand Glean's language better than me, as a new employee. And so the system is able to kind of say, hey, you probably also wanted to look for Go links results. And so I'm able to kind of understand, what was the original design behind this? What's some ongoing work for it across, again, all of these different data sources, not just documents, but also, code that's going in, that's modifying Go links, tickets tracking it, Slack messages that are talking about Go links, right? And another thing we can do is we can actually go and see who are the people who work on Go links, right, or on this shortcuts feature. Because at the end of the day, we do all this stuff to unlock all this information being siloed and train these models to help propagate this information. But people are always going to be there, and they're always going to be useful, and they're always going to be important. So we also need to be able to figure out how can we point to the right one, right? And so that language modeling that I described also gives us the ability to kind of do attribution and say, hey, who are the people who are writing about this kind of concept, right? And who are the people who you might need to go to if you actually need to ask someone about it, rather than posting in a big channel or blasting out this giant email, right? It's very clear who are the people that you might ask for some follow-up question on it, right? Okay, and then finally, let's say I'm trying to do product prioritization for the next quarter, and I just want to know, are there any customer requests for Salesforce in Q3? And let's say I'm rewinding a little bit here. I know we're middle of Q3, but what Glean has done is actually all those models that I described earlier. It's gone through, it's not only trained that language model, but gone and attempted to mine all these different places where questions have been asked, right? That people might be asking later in the future. And what we're able to do there is help people see previous context on things, right? So I can see that back in July, someone has actually already done the work to try to see, oh, how do we source, what kind of improvements to our Salesforce integration we should make in Q3. And I can also see that someone, I can see Greg has actually, he's on the CS team. He's already been telling us, there are some things that customers are asking for. And I can just pop that open and see, oh, what's the other context in that conversation? Are there other, customer requests? And right here, I can see a bunch of other ones. So that'll give me a bunch of very useful context. And doing this kind of mining and matching is really, again, only enabled by those strides in that language understanding technology. So that's all I have for the demo today. I'm happy to answer more questions about any of the things I touched on in the demo during the Q&A section. But I just wanted to kind of anchor everything I showed you on the kind of user feedback that we've been getting. There's nothing that makes me happier than building something that people love. And really here at Glean, we do think that users are really, truly in love with what we've built, right? So they are really getting freed from all those problems, all that toil that I highlighted in the very beginning, right? They're finding that they can access their information, even though it's like sprawled across all these different sources, that they're not wasting time either asking questions or answering questions. And just these little tidbits of feedback really are amazing. And that obviously all drives into, being lucky enough to partner with some of the awesome logos here that we've listed, who are all using Glean to great effect across their organizations, across all these different roles and all these different functions, and really making their employees more productive and happier. So here we have, just a little demo link. Please do reach out to our sales team if you want to find out more about Glean, about how, just how quickly we can get it up and running, get that experience out to your employees, make them happier, more productive. And yeah, that's all I have for today. So I'm happy to jump into Q&A.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really, really cool. Actually, this is something I'm learning about here in this presentation, along with everybody else. And I think this is one of those times where I see something and I say, that's exactly the tool I couldn't describe, but I know we need, even here at Actual Tech Media, with so many different, tools and document sources and knowledge bases and everything, we still can't find anything, that we're looking for. And we spend so much of the day just asking other people, hey, where's that document we worked on last week? Or, who do I talk to about this or whatever? So really cool solution here. I want to bring up a poll question for everyone out there on the screen. The question says, what additional information would you like about Glean? We do want to get your feedback on this. It is important to us. And we'll leave that up while we take your questions here from the audience. There's a ton of great questions coming in, Eddie. I'm not sure where to start actually with them. There's so many. I'm just going to start with this one. They're asking, if Glean trains a language model on my company's data, are there security or privacy implications we need to be aware of?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we've always been, security first from day one. And so what we do is that language model is actually transfer learning in one direction. So we take a base model and we actually fine tune it specifically only on your customers, only on your data in your cloud environment. And that model never leaves your cloud environment. So we're not, cross-polluting between different customers. Your data is not leaving. Just like the rest of the data in that cloud environment, after crawling everything, the model itself also remains inside that deployment. And so, we respect that security aspect.
Excellent. And then what about, there's a couple questions here. Can Glean integrate with my homegrown application like a CRM?
Yes. I didn't catch if that homegrown application, did someone say Jira? Because we do have a Jira. I'm actually not seeing the question here.
Oh, they
in general,
CRM.
Yes. Yes, so we do have a push API that allows people to push basically to figure out how their data fits into our framework, and a really easy way for them to basically push it so that it's available to both power these language models and also be searchable. So yes, we do support custom data sources, and the space of kind of first-class connectors is ever growing.
Excellent. Next question, is there a limit to how many apps I can connect for my team?
There is no limit. There is no limit. We don't think about pricing in that way currently. Our goal is to get that information accessible to everyone in the enterprise that they need. And so that information is going to be, across many, many different data sources. So we want to kind of make sure that they can access it anywhere. So we don't have any sort of limit there.
Okay. Let's see. Matt is asking, can I search multiple geographic locations for objects stored from a central interface?
Should we actually, sorry, not to push back on your question selection. Yeah. Should we go in reverse order? I just don't want people to feel like because they ask the question first, they don't get their response. So we can start at the bottom. I see actually 1 of 17. Wow. Actually, I guess, let me see if I can sort by clean ones at least. Okay. So I think, is Rob's question first then? Or no, I'm on page 1 here. Let's go with.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I see Gilbert's question as being the oldest.
Okay. Yeah. So biggest disconnect between AI consumers and AI practitioners. That's a great question. I think at the end of the day, it's about cutting through the noise and figuring out, okay, there's all this cool technology, but what is the actual application, right? And I think kind of tying this into maybe some of the other questions, there's definitely, in my view, a little bit of fear mongering about what's feasible with technology, and the practitioners will tell you, look, there's these cool things that can be done, but we're nowhere close to general AI or anything like that. There's I described, for example, when I demoed that expert detection thing. At the end of the day, people will always be there. No one is trying to automate anyone away. The models are learning the things that are basic to the employees that they don't want to do, right? That they don't want to be questions they don't want to be answering, that they don't need to be answering, right? And so in that sense, I think that's a gap sometimes that I see between consumers and practitioners, and also maybe two birds with one stone. Not so worried about the kind of societal risks in the short term. I see Eric also had a question about talking to the team about AI, and I think that I also touched on that a little bit too, which is just understanding how to communicate that this is a human in the loop process. This is something where this is work you don't want to be doing, not work that you want to be doing, right? Okay. And David, sorry if I'm kind of just blasting through.
No, please, go ahead.
Okay. I see Rob asked what browsers and extensions does Glean support. So Chrome is our main browser, but we also have Brave and Firefox, major browsers, and obviously, we want to work with our customers to keep expanding that set. And so we have an extension kind of built for each one of those browsers. And then, as I said, although a lot of the power comes from that extension, there's a web app in general. So, any browser should work in that sense. I see there's a question about privacy options to allow crawling certain things without giving out all-out access. Yes, there is. One thing I wanted to make very clear is that, when I showed my ability to search something, everything I'm seeing on that page is permissioned is what's permissioned to me, right? So because we're driven by SSO, each one of these data sources has some sort of permissions model, and we're able to say, okay, we only are going to show results that are not only show results, but all that derived information, right? That acronym. If I didn't have access to the document that it's learned from, I'm not going to be able to see it as well, right? So that's one aspect I wanted. That's table stakes. And then, I think Reg's specific question is about kind of not letting Glean crawl things. And yes, as we set up data sources, we do have red lists to allow if there's something for some reason you don't want to be able to crawl, we do have that capability. That's right. So we can jump to Ned's question. Glean's managed cloud environments, fully managed SaaS experience. How do you incorporate AI solution in a platform as a service? That's a good question. So when we say platform as a service here, we don't really think of the language model itself as the product currently. What I mean by that is, we have search as a product. We have a lot of our knowledge features and work hub features as well. And the AI is what's powering it, right? So in that sense, we do want to move, think about how we can move towards platforms in the future. But right now, that managed cloud environment does allow us to, simply serve the end user through that search experience. I think that kind of tied to cloud. So for cloud, we allow, both hosting the project through your own cloud, as well as kind of us hosting it for you. We allow those kinds of models. So that's kind of a cloud on-prem type. But we do not have a fully on-prem option yet. We do have integration with some data sources that are on-prem, like some of the enterprise Atlassian products. Keep going. How could using Glean positively impact some of the current disruption issues around quiet quitting, for example, which does impact technical staff? Okay, yeah, I actually just heard about a bit about quiet quitting on NPR this morning as I was driving in. So I do think that a lot of the reason why workers are unhappy and not motivated in their job is because they end up having to spend time on things that genuinely no one should need to spend time on, that make them unhappy, and make them forget why they joined this company in the first place, what kind of mission they're working towards. And so in that sense, I do think that if you can remove some of that toil and just make their experience better, it can definitely help with that kind of mindset and that mood around quiet quitting. Well, I see a security question, and I think my answer around how we crawl permissions answers that from Nathan here in terms of that permission is crawled right when the data is connected, and then when it's served, that result page again is only going to contain documents you have access to. So in terms of security, we also have the ability now that if there's additional security protocols you want to run over your data, we do have the ability to do that since we've crawled everything. For example, we have a DLP feature as well that allows legal teams to, if they want reports on, are there documents that are actually over provisioned that people shouldn't have access to? Even though Glean is respecting all of those permissions, we want to be able to surface to those teams cases where they might be over permissioned. From Caleb, I see a question about integrating into a native search. Yes, we do have a functionality called native search replace. Some people are using it in places like Confluence, where if with the Chrome extension, we can effectively, if people do a lot of work in that place, we don't want to take them out of it, right? Our goal is to really help people kind of meet people where they are. So we do have users who are kind of using Glean inside a Confluence search, right? And we're placing that search box. and we have features like gleaning things from Slack as well, just to kind of continue on that theme of meeting people where they are. Okay, I see Paul has a question about smaller businesses with a smaller profile of apps and platforms. I think that, in general, we're not taking really like a hard stance on who derives the most value out of Glean. I will say, from an internal standpoint, I've been with Glean since we were 5 people, and we've been dog fooding Glean from the beginning. And I always like to say the reason that we've built so quickly and grown our business so fast is because we actually had our product the whole time, and we were able to kind of do that. So, from when we were 5 people to as we've grown, we've certainly found value out of Glean. The value comes from both unification of that sprawl, but also simply the fact that our search is better even within a given data source, right? So even if you only work within Slack, we think we can do better giving you search within Slack, or even if you only work within Confluence, we can do the same. How are we doing on time here? Yeah.
I'm afraid we're starting to run out of time. Maybe time for just one more question.
Okay. Let me see. I see an interesting question about nonsensical, wildly wrong answers in AI with catastrophic failures. And this is a great call out. I don't want to brush this under the rug. I think this is also something that, comes from having practitioners on our team, right? And you definitely don't, the worst thing you can do is give someone the wrong piece of information, or have an AI give someone the wrong piece of information, right? And so we do think about provenance, right? We try to think about, extractive approaches that point to content rather than simply regurgitating or generating things, right? And when we do that, we do have safeguards in place to kind of make sure, right? And this kind of goes back to human in the loop. And if there's cases where we don't have that level of confidence, and we want to make sure that someone in the company can validate things, then we've built out flows for that to happen as well. So certainly that's top of mind for us as well. We're not about just throwing everything into some model and taking everything that comes out the other end. We have to be very conscious and careful about it as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's so many great questions here. I'm afraid we're going to have to get back to some of these folks after the event ends. We will route all these questions over to you and the Glean team, Eddie. And I think the answer, I think the answer for a lot of these folks is, to request a demo right there on the screen. I brought that slide back up. That is a hyperlink I want to point out to everyone in the audience, glean.com/demo. If you just click on that, that'll open up a new web browser tab or window, and you can fill out the very short little form there and get your own personal demo of Glean. Try it out for yourself. Get all your questions answered in your own demo. So, Eddie, it's been a real pleasure having you on the event today. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thank you to Glean for supporting the EcoCast today. Don't forget about the PDF handout. It's there in your Handouts tab. It is a PDF you can download with additional information on Glean. And, of course, there's the link there still in the slides window, glean.com/demo. Check that out. Try it out for yourself and get your own personal demo of Glean. All right. Thank you to everyone for the excellent questions. It's now time to wrap up the event. To do that, I'll hand it over to Jess.
Well, I definitely have to echo that, David. What an awesome presentation. Thank you to Glean for wrapping us up in style, and to all of you for asking some great questions. And thanks, David, for some awesome conversation and for coming to hang out with us today. It has been an awesome EcoCast. And the fun is not over just yet, because we still have one more $500 Amazon gift card to give away. So I'm going to remind you all one more time that you must be in attendance during the live webinar, and we will be in touch with all 3 of our winners about claiming their prizes after we wrap today, as well as the best question asked prize. So the final winner of a $500 Amazon gift card is Ed Fabian of Missouri. Ed Fabian of Missouri, congratulations. And to all of our winners here today, to recap, that's Melissa Baxter of South Carolina, Bruce Fong of California, and Ed Fabian of Missouri. We will again follow up with all of you and our best questions prize winners from each of our sessions after we wrap today. So stay tuned for that. All right. Now, if you are on the webinar today and you would like to chat with us about presenting on a future EcoCast or MegaCast, yes, please do that. Come hang out with David and I and Scott. We would all love to have a conversation with you. So just reach out to us via email at connect@actualtechmedia.com. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank all of our speakers from Progress Software, from Pure Storage, and from Glean for making this EcoCast possible. I hope that you've all gotten some interesting insights into this exciting and ever-evolving world of AI and ML. You know, as we said in the keynote, the direction of these technologies and where we're going with them is still being decided. It's still being invented. And that is exciting for all of us here today because we are here joining in that conversation, choosing to be a part of that discussion and the decisions and the directions that we're moving. So keep it up. Keep asking questions. Keep thinking about how you can and will use these tools in a way that feels responsible and exciting and scalable to you and your organization. So on that note, a special thank you to everyone who answered a poll or asked a question today. Thank you for bringing your curiosity here with you. It really does make a difference and it brings up the whole energy of the webinar. Now, don't forget to check out the Actual Tech Media webinar calendar for some great upcoming webinars. In fact, be sure to head to the Actual Tech Media webinar calendar right now and register for the next EcoCast. It's coming up on Tuesday, September 20th. It's the Healthcare Health Check, assessing IT products and services to streamline healthcare operations. So this is going to be a fascinating conversation. Be sure to sign in and come join us at 12 p.m. Eastern. That's 9 a.m. Pacific on Tuesday, the 22nd there. And it's going to be an awesome conversation. Oh, I'm sorry, Tuesday, the 20th. Tuesday, the 20th. You know, I tell you, time is flying by. I feel like it's October already. Oh, one day at a time. Tuesday the 20th at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Come join us for this EcoCast. Whenever I get to see you again next, I'm excited about that. And until then, I hope you have an absolutely beautiful end to your day.